Welcome to Oni's Guide to the Protection Paladin. I will be covering talents, glyphs, spell priority, and stat priority in this guide for the Protection Paladin in patch 5.3. Well, let's go ahead and start with talents. Pull this up here. My talents are a little bit different than everybody else's, from what I can tell from all of my research, and I'll be going in depth into all of my talent choices and why I think Protection Paladins should be using these. There is a big phrase being passed around throughout the tanking community called active mitigation, and a lot of people talk about the Protection Paladin having a bad active mitigation model. Really, it's just pressing one button after you get 3 holy power. And after reading all of the talents thoroughly, doing a little bit of math, I've discovered it's not that simple, and I wanted to share that with the World of Warcraft community, see if I can give Protection Paladins a little better of a name at mid-range level. Just to show you guys, my item level is at 507 Worn, so you know I'm not lying when I say I'm middle of the row as far as gear goes. But I do have a ball. I don't take a whole lot of damage, as you can see by my damage meter over here. This is an actual run from the night before. You could compare those healing and damage taken numbers and note that the Protection Paladin does most of his healing to himself. In fact, most of mine, 73% of mine, was to me. So let's get into it, shall we? First off, talents. Your level 15 talent is some sort of movement speed increase, where they're all decent and all useful at some point here or there. I find as a tank, having speed of light ready and available has been the most useful one out of all 3. My personal opinion, I would suggest trying all 3 and seeing which one you like better. My opinion is speed of light tops them all. Second, you get in the level 30 talents, you get some sort of CC ability. Fist of Justice, which I've chosen, is a stun. Always handy, and that's why I've chosen it. Repentance is some sort... It incapacitates him. It's a CC effect. Kind of puts him to sleep. CCs haven't been used since Burning Crusade. Was the last time I think I used them while tanking. Burden of Guilt is just a movement slowing decrease. It's more useful in a PvP situation. It might be useful to a Reddit to help slow down mobs, additional mobs incoming, possibly by Healadin. But if you're just going to slow them, you might as well stun them for the 6 seconds and inform your tank that he missed something. Level 45, you get some sort of heal, absorb, or bonus to heal. And this is where I differ from every other paladin I've seen. Selfless Healer, often used by Ret, allows successful judgments to reduce the cast time and mana cost of your next flash of light by 35% per stack, and improves its effectiveness by 20% per stack when used to heal others. Stacks up to 3 times. I believe that was actually intended for Holy Paladins. Retribution Paladins in PvP tend to pick that up more often than not. To the big one, Sacred Shield. This is what every other tank uses. You'll notice it's not my choice. And the reason behind that is math. Reading mine, just as it sits, protects the target with a shield of holy light for 32.18 seconds. The shield absorbs up to 15,801 damage every 4.6 seconds. Now this is huge, and when I get to the math portion of this here in a little bit, you'll see the difference. I choose Eternal Flame. And the reason is what we discussed earlier, active mitigation. Active mitigation seems to be, at least in my opinion, a term for either being able to self-heal, like a DK and his Death Strike, It's pretty much a self-heal. Combined with his mastery, becomes an absorb. That's his active mitigation model. Really it. He's had it since the beginning. For Prot Warriors, it's basically either a block or an extra shield. Active mitigation for bears is pretty much dodging. And active mitigation for monks is shuffling and shielding. Well, for the Holy Paladin, everybody thought Sacred Shield was just the active mitigation, when Sacred Shield was actually a little more intended to be used as a bubble by the healers. But if we read Eternal Flame, just for a moment, consumes up to 3 holy power to place a protective holy flame on a friendly target, which heals them for 12,612 and an additional 1,345 every 2.3 seconds for 29.89 seconds. Healing increased per charge of holy power, meaning it doubles every holy power, so these numbers will be times 3 when you're using all 3. The heal over time is increased by 100% if used on the Paladin. This replaces your Word of Glory. So this effectively doubles the amount of healing that rolling hot will do. And I will demonstrate this later on in the guide here. But let's keep those things in mind just for a second, and we'll move on. Level 60, you get some sort of bonus to your seals and or a brand new seal. Clemency, you can use Hand of Freedom, Hand of Protection, Hand of Sacrifice, and Hand of Salvation twice before incurring their cooldowns. Hand of Freedom is the most useful out of them. It just to prevent you from being too slow so you can get from mob to mob to mob. I've never had to use them twice in a row, or twice before the cooldown was over, so I skipped Clemency altogether. Unbreakable Spirit. A lot of tanks use this one. When your Divine Shield, Divine Protection, or Lay on Hands are in cooldown, spending Holy Power will reduce the remaining cooldown by 1% per Holy Power spent, up to a maximum of 50% reduction. This means every time you Shield of the Righteous, you're gonna reduce their cooldown by 3%, which is handy, but most of those cooldowns are anywhere between 1 minute and 3 minutes. 3% in the grand scheme of things is not this huge deal. I prefer to take Hand of Purity. Now, a lot of people say that's a healer's talent choice. When if you look at it, every 30 seconds, which is its cooldown, you're allowed to place a hand on a friendly target, reducing damage taken by 10%, and damage from harmful periodic effects by an additional 70% for 6 seconds. Well, that sounds a heck of a lot like a 30-second damage reduced cooldown to me, and I use it. There's a lot of stacking debuffs that do periodic damage to tanks in Mist of Pandaria, especially in Throne of Thunder, but in all of the instances. And having this readily available to reduce that is a wonderful thing. Just an absolute wonderful thing. It's a godsend. Helps smooth out my damage. I absolutely take my hat off to Hand of Purity. At level 75, we get some sort of ability to increase our secondary resource production, our holy power production, and Sanctified Wrath, which I'm not sure why that's there, but, you know, que sera, sera. Holy Avenger. Every 2 minutes you can use your Holy Avenger for abilities that generate holy power. Will deal 30% additional damage, so DPS increase to your Shield of the Righteous, and healing, and generate 3 charges of holy power for the next 18 seconds. Now this really would synergize well, and this one's going to be a matter of personal preference. I am not going to knock Holy Avenger. Every 2 minutes you get to say, I do more. And really lining that up would be a beautiful thing if you can do it. But in the heat of battle, a lot of times stuff gets missed in the fold. And you don't want to say it, but it's true. Everybody misses something. Multitasking, as many things as tanks have to multitask, does end up making you miss stuff. Which is why I choose Divine Purpose. Divine Purpose gives me a 25% chance every time I use a holy power generating ability to use that ability again as if I had 3 holy power. So every time I use my Shield of the Righteous, I have a 25% chance to proc it again. That proc has a 25% chance to proc again. I have chain proc these 5, 6, 7 times, and I do this often. It happens quite often. So Divine Purpose is the winner for me. Just is the winner for me. It gives you almost a invisible haste bonus. It's a wonderful thing, and it can happen every time. So haste actually increases the usefulness of this because you get more rolls of the dice to get more procs, and it all synergizes really well. And I think that's a big key when building any tune, especially with a Protection Paladin. Synergy is key. At level 90, we get some sort of extra offensive attack that also doubles as some sort of heal. Execution Sentence, commonly used by Retribution Paladins, can be used on yourself to heal, can be used on your opponent to deal damage. My issue with it is it has a 1 minute cooldown, and at 1 minute of fighting, unless I have it set up on a tell me when, I will forget it. Just the nature of that. And the damage really isn't that much. Not if you compare it mathematically to the others. Light's Hammer, commonly used by Holy Paladins, gives you an AoE heal, another AoE damage dealer, does have a 1 minute cooldown, and once again, that 1 minute cooldown is just a long time to wait for something extra. I choose Holy Prism. It has a 20-second cooldown, so you can get 3 of them off in that same 1 minute as the other 2. So any value you see while reading this, if you're going to compare it to the other 2 abilities, needs to be tripled. Pull out a calculator, do a little math, and if you triple it up, you'll find that it does a great deal more damage and will heal a lot. Every 20 seconds you're helping heal the raid. I know you're a tank, and I know that's not your job, but you chose a Protection Paladin. And Blizzard has really made us battle healers. Let's move out of this Worgen's way just a little bit, shall we? He seems to really want to take over the vid. There we go. But between our glyphs, our different talents, and just the nature of some of our spells, Blizzard seemed to really want us to be a battle healer while tanking. At least up until this point, when patch 5.4 comes out, we'll see if they've changed that model. I don't really see it coming. I don't see a gigantic change to our model coming. They seem to be pretty happy with it because there's a even enough mixture of I love the Prot Paladin, I hate the Prot Paladin. And in the end, I think that's what they're looking for. A nice even distribution. But those are your talents, and we'll be referring back to a couple of these here in a second. The next thing I wanted to go over was glyphs. Glyphs are important. The 3 I have, the 3 major glyphs that I'm using, I have found to be absolutely indispensable. We'll start off with Glyph of the Alabaster Shield. I know this got a nerf, but it is still useful. Your successful blocks increase the damage of your next Shield of the Righteous by 20%. Stacks up to 3 times. We do have significant damage as a Protection Paladin, and I can show you my damage in the last run I did. Well, was 3rd overall. This fight was kind of bad, but I can do it one better and give you total. There you go. That's against a Frost DK, an Ellie Shaman, item level 522 Frost DK, a 510 Ellie Shaman, a 510 Windwalker Monk. And as you can see, I'm right there in the middle of that pack. So our damage is not insignificant. You can push it. I've had spikes in AoE fights up to 300, 450k. I wish that was a joke. It really isn't. Our damage will scale the more people we get to attack. So keep that in mind. Your AoE damage abilities are second to none. You can keep up with anybody. The next major glyph, Glyph of the Battle Healer. Now, they wouldn't have put this glyph for us if they really didn't want us to use it. And if they really didn't want us healing people, then they wouldn't have come up with it in the first place. Glyph of the Battle Healer. Using melee attacks while using Seal of Insight, which is our primary seal. Heals a nearby injured friendly target, excluding the Paladin, so it doesn't heal yourself. This is solely to help your raid. Excluding the Paladin within 30 yards for 20% of the damage dealt. So every melee attack you use, so all of them, except for pretty much all of them. We might have one or two spells. Consecrate. I don't know if they count Judgment because it can be used at range, but all of them can be used in melee. And I've never really been able to see any model that tells me what's healing for what specifically. So I just assume about 75% of our spells are activated by Glyph of the Battle Healer, including our auto attacks. Definitely our Shields of the Righteous, which do hit rather hard. My Shield of the Righteous currently is critting at 171.5k. Not a bad hit. 20% of that is a worthwhile heal for anybody within 30 yards. And finally, I choose Glyph of Divine Protection. It reduces the magical damage reduction of your Divine Protection to 20%, but also transfers that 20% to a physical damage reduction. Your Divine Protection, if we come down here, is a 1-minute cooldown, defensive cooldown. So you can basically rotate this all the time to help smooth out your damage. It's 1 minute. It's not a huge cooldown. It's not as big as, say, Guardian of Ancient Kings. 3-minute cooldown reduces a lot of damage. This just helps smooth damage out. You could almost macro it into your rotation if you really felt like it. I like just having it out because I do enjoy gaining some vengeance at the start of fights. So I like to have the control over that. But, play as you like. Those are my glyphs, my talents. Next thing we're going to cover is your stat priority, at least in my opinion. And here is my stat priority. I even have the wrong trinket in. There we go. Here's my stats. They're not altered. Item level 509, as it should be. They're not altered in any way, not changed. They're here for all to see. Armor is, of course, always important, so make sure you're wearing your plate, guys. Don't bring that cloth stuff to work. Dodge and parry are actually useful stats now, so don't be afraid of your tanking gear. I personally recommend a blending of tanking gear and actual melee gear, melee DPS gear. There we go. Sorry about the brain fart, guys. And if you look at my gear, I can demonstrate that I have done that. Melee DPS helm with the LFR tier tanking shoulders. Socket bonus is plus to parry, so that does qualify. Once again, we have DPS gear, hit and parry, solid tanking gear, parry and dodge, tanking gear. So we do have a gentle mix of the two combining together. And they've actually produced some seriously decent results. Dodge and parry are useful because they will synergize with your Grand Crusader. When you dodge or parry a melee attack, or hit with Crusader Strike or Hammer of the Righteous, you have a 12% chance of refreshing the cooldown on your next Avenger Shield and causing it to generate a charge of Holy Power. This is really good. This will A, increase your DPS, B, increase your Holy Power production, and C, get you more stuff to click so you're not sitting there bored. Or keybind, depending on how you play. As you can see with my damage dealt, Avenger Shield does quite a bit and hits rather hard. So we do want to get as many procs as we can. Having 4 serious sources for that is much better than just 2. And especially since 2 of them are passive, why not? Why not? And we don't have to fight our DPS as much for their gear. first stat priorities that you do need to concern yourself with is your hit chance and your expertise. They need to be hard cap guys. You can't go in shooting where you can miss. That's going to reduce the entire model of the Paladin. Just going to reduce it. You're going to do less of everything. You're going to take more damage. You're going to do less damage yourself. Harder to heal. Everything's affected. Because you'll start missing things like your Judgment, like your Crusader Strike. God forbid you miss your Avenger Shield. All of these things need to hit, and need to hit hard and hit often. In fact, all the time. So the hit chance you're looking for is 7.50%. As you can see, I'm 4 points over. No harm, no foul. And expertise you're looking for is dead even 15%. This will make it to where none of your attacks can be dodged or parried. So when you're standing in front of that boss and he's grinning at you, you can really hit him in the chops and it won't matter. After that, your next highest stat priority is going to be haste. Haste, haste, haste. We need haste. Gotta love that haste. That haste will actually synergize. If I can find it. Here we go. Sanctity of Battle. There we go. Melee haste effects lower the cooldown and global cooldown of your Judgment, Crusader Strike, Hammer of the Righteous, Consecrate, Holy Wrath, Avenger Shield, Shield of the Righteous, and Hammer of Wrath. So everything you do is affected by haste in a positive manner. So building your haste up, absolutely mandatory. Building your haste up is actually building your defense up, which a lot of people, it will bother a lot of people, but it gives you something new to do. I've done the same Paladin since Burning Crusade. I played a warrior in vanilla, so something refreshing, kind of new. It does spice it up just a tad. After haste, the next thing you're looking for is mastery. Your mastery is actually pretty solid. Increases the damage reduction of your Shield of the Righteous, making that better. Synergy, we're looking for those. Excuse me. Add 17% to your Bastion of Glory, which we'll get to in a second. That's another synergy thing, and one of the primary reasons one of our talents were chosen, and I'll bring it all together for you here in a second. And increases your chance to block melee attacks by 17%. Always solid. We used to be the blocking kings. I don't see why we shouldn't have at least something still there. So Mastery will be your secondary, will be second to Haste. After that, you want Dodge, and then Parry. The reason you want them in that order is because you do want slightly more Parry than twice your Dodge. This is for diminishing returns, but most of your gear is going to have Parry on it. Dodge actually is not on a lot of plate gear, so you do want to have a little more than double. As you can see here, if you were to double my Dodge, it would put me at a little over 15%. And as you can see, my parry is a little over even that. So right now, that's about right where I want to be for my diminishing returns to not harm me too much, so I can keep stacking those extra holy powers. The stat you need to avoid is crit. Don't need it. Just don't. And you don't have your room to get it either. So getting all these things put together will actually take up all of your time and all of your slots. Speaking of slots, let's talk about gemming. Gemming. Alright, in my red sockets, as you can see here, Expertise and Haste is the one I chose. Help build up that expertise, help build up that haste a little bit. That way we can get more haste off of our reforges. So that's what I chose for the red ones. Your yellow sockets, Strength and Haste. A lot of people go Strength and Haste. Why Strength? Well, strength is key to a lot of stuff. Strength builds up your attack power. 50% of your attack power as a Protection Paladin goes straight into your spell power. Your spell power increases the damage and healing of spells. All you cast is spells. It's all holy damage, all of it. So we need to rock up that spell power to rock up our threat, get our DPS going, and improve our healing spells for the raid and for ourselves. So it makes a lot of sense to want to stack that up. Also, passively, your strength will build up your parry chance. So it's also good for defense in that manner. So it provides avoidance. It provides... it's the root of everything. So strength, don't shy away from it. Even though you're a tank, still need it. Just to cover, the expertise and haste gems are right up until you start easily getting the expertise you need with your gear. Once you start getting that, slowly start working in the strength and haste. After that, yellow sockets are straight haste. There's no denying that. They're king. And as far as your blue sockets go, haste and stamina. We're still a tank, still need some health. A little bit of stamina goes a long way. So right, you're gemming, nice and easy, straightforward. Where you need to prioritize strength, haste, stamina within your gemming. Hit and expertise until you can get those easily throughout your gear and your reforges. Reforging is simple as well. You're just reforging to get your hit and your expertise to cap. After that, you're looking for haste. If haste isn't available, pick up your mastery, so on and so forth down the line, as we've discussed. So that's your talents, glyphs, gemming, reforging. Let's get to some of that synergy I was talking about. This is the real root of all of it. And I'll even demonstrate it for you right here live so you can actually see the proof behind what I said. So we were talking earlier in our talents about taking Eternal Flame, and that might have been confusing to folks. We'll just do a little recap. Puts a dot on you, gives you a nice big heal when it's cast, and it'll stack up with your holy power, so it'll do even more, 3 times more with all 3 holy power. And if used on yourself, the heal over time is in fact doubled on the Paladin. Well, we're casting Shield of the Righteous every time it's up. We're casting it so we can pick up the damage reduction from it. Instantly slam the target with your shield, causing 17,140 holy damage, reducing the physical damage you take by 42% for 3 seconds, and causing Bastion of Glory. I think a lot of prop paladins have skipped that last one, and causing Bastion of Glory. Let's read Bastion of Glory. Increases the strength of your Eternal Flame, or Word of Glory, when used to heal yourself by 27% and stacks up to 5 times. So if we were to do the math on that, that would be 108%. No, 110%. 110% bonus to your Eternal Flame when used to heal yourself. But an Eternal Flame already says, for at least the heal over time, if used on yourself, that's an extra 100%. So we've in fact doubled it, and then doubled it yet again if we use our synergy right. Then we can actually triple the numbers there by with 3 holy powers. So each time, the first holy power we get to cast it, the second one will double it, the third one will triple it. So we're already casting Shield of the Righteous. We have that. Let's go see what it does, just to kind of give you a key. Remembering, Sacred Shield is 15,801 every 4.60 seconds. And this tick from Eternal Flame is every 2.3 seconds. So we get 2 of these every time we would normally get one Sacred Shield development. So whatever number we get on the dot, or on the hot that we put on ourselves, would need to be doubled in order to give it a fair comparison to Sacred Shield. Remembering that Vengeance is built through unmitigated damage, and Sacred Shield will mitigate that damage. But very fast-paced hot would allow you to build your vengeance and still maintain stability. Every 2.5 seconds, the healer's really not going to see the fluctuation. We'll go into here. Oh, that's not what we wanted. Just floating combat text for healing. Just so you could see the numbers right here on my screen. And we're going to build up what we need to do here. This will only take a second. And I'm also demonstrating a lot of other things when I'm doing this. Our rotation, our priorities. You see how I'm trying to keep my Judgment and my Crusader Strike on cooldown. And I'm using the others as filler. There's one of those wonderful procs there. There's one of those procs, and boom, we're in it. Now this is just a tick without any buffs on at all. 18.977. $18,977 a tick. And what did we have on the initial Seal of Insight? Eternal Flame healed me. This is just a normal heal for 90k right off the bat. That's a 90k heal every time you put it up. And then after that, you're getting basically 19k a tick from this thing. If we were to double that 18,977, and everybody pull your calculators out for that one, just to make it easy on yourself. 18,977 times 2. 37,954. That's what it would be. That's what it is every 4.6 seconds. So it's effectively more than double what that Sacred Shield is. And I think this is where a lot of the Protection Paladins seem squishy, because 15,801 is absolutely nothing to these bosses. They just flick their finger and that shield is gone. But 19,000 a tick, not raid buffed. Raid buffed, that'll be increased even further. And obviously this will scale with gear and your spell power. As that goes up, these numbers will go up. So you could be looking at 30k, 25k, 30k in high gear. I'd love to see what Trekkie would do to this from Method EU. It would be phenomenal. Much more healing going into you. This will save your healer's mana. This will smooth out your damage, and your healers will be bored, just like mine. I do thank you for watching this. I hope it was helpful. I hope I gave you a little bit of extra insight into proper active mitigation model for the 5.3 Protection Paladin. This is Oni, and I'll have more guides coming your way later. Thank you.